The unexpected encounter. The night sky over rural Montana blazed with an unnatural light as Dr. Sarah Chen sped down the empty highway in her beat-up pickup truck. Her shift at the small county hospital had just ended, but something told her this wasn't going to be a quiet drive home. The streaking fireball overhead confirmed her suspicions as it plummeted earthward, disappearing behind a distant hill. Sarah's heart raced as she turned off the main road, following the path of the fallen object. As a doctor, her first instinct was always to help, even if this situation seemed far beyond her usual realm of experience. The truck's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating a path of broken trees and scorched earth. As she crested the hill, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. There, in a small clearing, lay the crumpled form of what could only be described as a spaceship. Its sleek, silver hull was cracked and sparking, wisps of smoke rising from the wreckage. Sarah pulled the truck to a stop and grabbed her medical bag, her training kicking in despite the surreal nature of the scene before her. Approaching cautiously, Sarah called out, "Hello, is anyone there? I'm a doctor, I can help." The only response was the crackle of small fires and the groan of cooling metal. As she neared the ship, a section of the hull suddenly shifted, revealing a figure slumped inside. Sarah rushed forward, her medical instincts overriding any fear or hesitation. The being she found inside was unlike anything she had ever seen. Humanoid in shape, but with iridescent skin that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. Its features were delicate, almost ethereal, but marred by numerous cuts and burns. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered, reaching out to check for signs of life. To her amazement, she felt a pulse, rapid and weak, but definitely there. The alien's eyes fluttered open, revealing pupils that swirled with an array of colors. A soft, melodic sound escaped its lips, incomprehensible but clearly filled with pain and fear. "It's okay," Sarah said soothingly, though she wasn't sure if the alien could understand her. "I'm here to help. I'm a doctor." She gestured to herself and then to her medical bag, hoping to convey her intentions. The alien's gaze focused on Sarah, a flicker of understanding passing across its face. It tried to move but winced in pain, a viscous, silvery fluid seeping from a wound in its side. Sarah quickly opened her medical bag, her mind racing as she tried to figure out how to treat an anatomy she knew nothing about. "I need to stop this bleeding," Sarah muttered to herself, pulling out gauze and antiseptic. As she worked, she continued to speak softly to the alien, hoping her tone would be comforting even if the words were meaningless. "I'm Sarah. Can you understand me? Do you have a name?" The alien's lips moved, forming sounds that Sarah couldn't quite grasp. After a few attempts, a word emerged that sounded almost like Zara. "Zara, is that your name?" Sarah asked, and the alien nodded weakly. "Okay, Zara, I'm going to do everything I can to help you. Just stay with me, all right?" As Sarah worked to stabilize Zara's condition, she couldn't help but marvel at the being before her. Despite the injuries, there was an undeniable beauty to the alien's form. The iridescent skin seemed to pulse with its own inner light, and there was an intelligence in those swirling eyes that spoke of a highly advanced species. Time seemed to lose all meaning as Sarah focused on treating Zara's wounds. The techniques she had learned in medical school and honed through years of practice were put to the ultimate test as she adapted them to an alien physiology. She found herself relying on instinct as much as knowledge, her hands moving with a surety that belied the strangeness of the situation. As the first rays of dawn began to peek over the horizon, Sarah sat back on her heels, exhausted but satisfied. Zara's condition had stabilized, the worst of the bleeding stopped and the burns treated as best as Sarah could manage. The alien's breathing had evened out, and those mesmerizing eyes were now watching Sarah with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Sarah said, looking around at the crash site. It wouldn't be long before others discovered the wreckage, and she had a feeling that might not be the best thing for Zara. "Can you move? I have a cabin not far from here." We can hide you there while you recover. Zara seemed to understand the urgency in Sarah's voice, if not the exact words. With Sarah's help, the alien managed to stand, leaning heavily on the human as they made their way to the truck. Getting Zara into the passenger seat was a challenge, but they managed it just as the sound of distant sirens began to echo through the hills. As Sarah drove away from the crash site, her mind was reeling. In the span of a few hours, her entire world had been turned upside down. Aliens were real, and she had just saved one's life. What would happen now? What kind of consequences would this encounter have? And most importantly, how could she keep Zara safe while the alien recovered? The drive to Sarah's cabin was tense, every set of headlights in the rearview mirror causing her heart to skip a beat. Zara remained silent, those swirling eyes taking in the unfamiliar landscape passing by outside. Sarah found herself glancing frequently at her passenger, still hardly able to believe what was happening. As they pulled up to the small, secluded cabin, Sarah let out a sigh of relief. They had made it without incident. Now came the challenge of getting Zara inside and figuring out what to do next. "This is my place," Sarah said as she helped Zara out of the truck. "We'll be safe here for now. I have more medical supplies inside, and we can figure out our next move." The alien leaned heavily on Sarah as they made their way into the cabin. Once inside, Sarah helped Zara onto the couch, quickly gathering pillows and blankets to make the alien as comfortable as possible. As she worked, Sarah's mind was racing, trying to process the magnitude of what was happening. She had always believed in the possibility of extraterrestrial life, but to actually encounter it, to save the life of an alien being, was beyond anything she had ever imagined. And yet, here she was, her medical training and human compassion bridging a gap between worlds. As the adrenaline of the night began to wear off, Sarah found herself sinking into a chair across from Zara, the weight of the situation finally hitting her. She met the alien's gaze, seeing a mix of pain, fear, and gratitude in those otherworldly eyes. "I don't know if you can understand me," Sarah said softly, "but I want you to know that you're safe here. I'll do everything I can to help you recover, and, well, we'll figure out the rest as we go." Zara's lips moved, forming sounds that were almost like words, but just beyond Sarah's comprehension. The alien then raised a hand, gesturing to Sarah and then to itself, before placing the hand over its chest in what seemed to be a universal gesture of gratitude. Sarah smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Despite the vast differences between them, in this moment, they were simply two beings connected by compassion and the will to survive. As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting a warm glow through the cabin windows, Sarah knew that her life would never be the same. She had taken the first step on an incredible journey, one that would challenge everything she thought she knew about the universe and her place in it. With a deep breath, Sarah stood up, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She was a doctor, sworn to help those in need, and right now, Zara needed her. Human or alien, it didn't matter. Sarah would do everything in her power to ensure her patient's survival and recovery. As she began to gather more medical supplies, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement beneath her concern and exhaustion. She was about to embark on the most extraordinary medical challenge of her career, and possibly change the course of human history in the process. Whatever came next, she was ready to face it head-on, armed with her knowledge, her compassion, and the unshakable determination that had driven her to become a doctor in the first place. The adventure was just beginning, and Dr. Sarah Chen was prepared to see it through, no matter where it might lead. A dangerous secret. As the Montana sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the cabin's rustic interior, Sarah found herself in a situation she never could have imagined. Her patient, an alien she now knew as Zara, lay resting on the couch, the iridescent skin pulsing with an otherworldly glow. Sarah had spent the past few hours meticulously documenting every aspect of Zara's physiology, her scientific curiosity warring with her oath to protect her patient's privacy. Xenobiology 101, Sarah muttered to herself, scribbling furiously in a notebook. Subject exhibits bioluminescent properties, possibly tied to vital signs. She glanced up at Zara, who was watching her with those mesmerizing, swirling eyes. I wish I could understand you better, Zara sighed. As if in response to her words, Zara slowly sat up, wincing slightly at the movement. The alien's hand moved to its throat, and suddenly, a small device Zara hadn't noticed before lit up. A soft, melodic voice filled the room, tinged with an electronic undertone. Your wish is granted, Dr. Sarah Chen, Zara said, the words slightly out of sync with the movement of her lips. This translator was damaged in the crash, but I've managed to repair it enough for basic communication. Zara's jaw dropped. You can speak English. Zara's lips curved into what might have been a smile. Not exactly. This device interprets my thoughts and translates them into your language. It's not perfect, but it should suffice. 1,000 questions raced through Zara's mind, but her medical training took precedence. How are you feeling? Are you in any pain? The pain is manageable, Zara replied. Your treatment has been surprisingly effective, considering the differences in our physiologies. I owe you my life, Dr. Chen. Zara waved off the praise. I'm just glad I could help. But Zara, I have to ask, what happened? Why did you crash here? The alien's expression darkened, the swirling colors in her eyes turning stormy. I was fleeing, Dr. Chen, fleeing from a regime that would see my people enslaved and our world stripped of its resources. As Zara began to explain, Zara found herself drawn into a tale that seemed ripped from the pages of a science fiction novel. Zara's homeworld, a planet called Lumina, was part of a vast interstellar alliance known as the Galactic Concordat. For centuries they had lived in peace, sharing knowledge and resources with other alien races. But recently, a faction known as the Void Imperium had risen to power within the Concordat. Led by a ruthless species called the Nexara, they sought to dominate rather than cooperate, viewing less technologically advanced races as resources to be exploited. My people, the Lumini, opposed their methods, Zara explained, her voice filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. We believed in harmony, in the sharing of knowledge. The Nexara saw us as a threat to their power. Zara listened, captivated and horrified. So they attacked your world. Zara nodded, the lights beneath her skin pulsing with what Zara now recognized as distress. They came under the guise of peacekeeping, but their true intentions quickly became clear. They began to strip our world of its resources, to conscript our people into labor camps. Those of us who resisted. The alien trailed off, and Zara felt a chill run down her spine. You were part of the resistance, she said softly. It wasn't a question. I am, Zara confirmed. I carried vital information, data that could expose the Void Imperium's atrocities to the rest of the Concordat. But they discovered my mission. I barely escaped with my life. Zara's mind reeled with the implications. She had saved not just an alien, but a fugitive carrying information that could change the balance of power in an interstellar civilization. The magnitude of it all was almost too much to comprehend. Before she could formulate a response, a low, pulsing sound filled the air. Zara's eyes widened in fear. No, she whispered. They found me. Zara rushed to the window, peering out through the gaps in the curtains. Her heart nearly stopped as she saw a sleek, dark ship descending from the clouds. Unlike anything she had ever seen before, it was clear this was no human aircraft. We have to go, Zara said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. Can you move? Zara struggled to her feet, leaning heavily on Zara for support. I think so. But where can we go? They'll track me wherever I run. Zara's mind raced, considering and discarding options in rapid succession. Then an idea struck her. I know a place, she said. An old mine shaft not far from here. The mineral deposits might interfere with their tracking systems. As they stumbled out of the cabin and towards Zara's truck, the alien ship drew ever closer. Sarah could see figures emerging from it now, tall and menacing in sleek black armor. The next Zara had arrived. "Hold on," Sarah said as she gunned the engine, the tires kicking up a spray of dirt and gravel. In the rearview mirror, she saw the Nexara soldiers raising weapons, strange energy bolts sizzling through the air where her truck had been moments before. As they sped down the winding mountain road, Sarah's knuckles white on the steering wheel, she couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of the situation. Just yesterday, she had been a small-town doctor, her biggest concern being Mrs. Johnson's persistent cough. Now, she was in a high-speed chase with alien pursuers, responsible for the safety of a being from another world and potentially the fate of an entire civilization. "I need you to trust me," Sarah said to Zara as she took a sharp turn off the main road onto a barely visible trail. "This is going to get rough." Zara nodded, her alien features set in determination. "I trusted you with my life once already, Dr. Chen. I see no reason to stop now." The truck bounced and jostled as Sarah navigated the treacherous path, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter behind them. After what felt like hours, but was likely only minutes, they arrived at the entrance to an old, abandoned mine shaft. "Here," Sarah said, helping Zara out of the truck. "This goes deep into the mountain. If I'm right, it should shield us from their sensors." As they made their way into the dark tunnel, the sound of ships overhead grew louder. Sarah fumbled for her phone, using its flashlight to illuminate their path. The air grew cooler and damper as they ventured deeper into the earth. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of stumbling through the darkness, Sarah called a halt. They were deep enough now that the sounds of pursuit had faded completely. In the dim light of her phone, Sarah could see Zara's bioluminescent skin pulsing weakly. "You need rest," Sarah said, her doctor's instincts kicking in despite the extraordinary circumstances. She helped Zara sit against the rough stone wall, then began to check her wounds. As she worked, Sarah's mind was awhirl with questions and possibilities. She had been thrust into a conflict beyond her wildest imagination, a struggle that spanned the stars. And yet, here in this dark cave, it came down to the most fundamental human instinct, the drive to help, to heal, to protect. "Zara," Sarah said softly as she finished redressing the alien's wounds, "I want you to know, whatever happens, I'm with you in this. We'll find a way to get your information to the right people, to stop the Void Imperium. Humanity might be new to this interstellar community, but we're not about to stand by and let tyrants oppress anyone, human or alien." In the dim light, Sarah saw Zara's eyes swirl with a kaleidoscope of colors. The alien reached out, placing a hand on Sarah's arm. The touch sent a tingle of warmth through Sarah's body. "Thank you, Dr. Chen," Zara said, her translated voice filled with emotion. "Your courage and compassion, they give me hope. Perhaps there is still a chance for the galaxy after all." As they sat there in the darkness, an unlikely pair united by circumstance and shared values, Sarah felt a sense of purpose unlike anything she had ever experienced. The road ahead would be dangerous, filled with challenges she could scarcely imagine, but she was ready to face them. For in this moment, deep in a mountain on a planet that suddenly seemed so much smaller than it had yesterday, Dr. Sarah Chen realized that she was no longer just a small-town doctor. She was now part of something greater, a defender not just of human life, but of freedom and justice throughout the stars. The adventure was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. Humanity's stand. The small town of Pinewood Creek, nestled in the Montana wilderness, had always prided itself on its tight-knit community and ability to weather any storm. But nothing could have prepared its residents for the cosmic tempest about to engulf them. As dawn broke over the sleepy town, Dr. Sarah Chen's pickup truck rumbled down Main Street, kicking up dust and turning heads. In the passenger seat, barely visible beneath a makeshift cloak, sat Zara, the alien fugitive whose arrival had catapulted Sarah into an interstellar conflict. "Where are we going?" Zara asked, her translator device striving to keep up with her anxious thoughts. Sarah's grip tightened on the steering wheel. To see the one person in this town crazy enough to believe us and smart enough to help. The truck screeched to a halt in front of Pinewood Creek's only radio station, a ramshackle building that looked like it had seen better days. A faded sign read WPNE, the voice of the Pines. "Come on," Sarah said, helping Zara out of the truck. "It's time to meet Astro Al." As they entered the station, they were greeted by a cacophony of blinking lights, wiring machines, and the booming voice of a man who seemed to be having an animated conversation with thin air. "And I'm telling you, folks, the truth is out there. The government can deny it all they want, but old Astro Owl knows better. Those lights in the sky ain't no weather balloons." And the man stopped mid-sentence as he spotted Sarah and Zara. His eyes widened behind thick, owlish glasses. "Well, I'll be damned. Sarah Chen, what in the name of Roswell have you brought into my station?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Al, remember all those times you said aliens were real and we all laughed? Well, I'm not laughing anymore." Over the next hour, Sarah and Zara recounted their harrowing tale to Al, whose expressions cycled through disbelief, excitement, and finally, grim determination. As Zara explained the threat of the Void Imperium, Al's usual bombastic demeanor gave way to a sober understanding of the gravity of the situation. "So," Al said, leaning back in his creaky chair, "we've got alien refugees, an intergalactic conspiracy, and a bunch of space fascists breathing down our necks. Sounds like a Tuesday in Pinewood Creek." He cracked a smile, but his eyes remained serious. "What do you need from me, Doc?" Sarah leaned forward, her voice low and urgent. "We need to warn the town, Al. The next Zara are coming, and we need to be ready. But we can't cause a panic. We need to do this smart." Al nodded, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Leave it to me, Doc. I've been preparing for this day my whole life." Over the next few days, Pinewood Creek underwent a subtle but profound transformation. Al's radio broadcasts, usually filled with conspiracy theories and alien abduction stories, began to take on a different tone. He spoke of community preparedness, of standing together in the face of adversity. Without ever mentioning aliens or invasions, he planted the seeds of resistance in the minds of the townsfolk. Meanwhile, Sarah and Zara worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. In the basement of the radio station, they set up a makeshift command center, using Al's impressive array of salvage technology and Zara's advanced knowledge to create early warning systems and rudimentary defenses. As word spread through the town of strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena, the people of Pinewood Creek began to come together. Farmers offered up their barns as shelters, the local gun club began running extra training sessions, and the high school science club worked overtime to build improvised communication devices based on Zara's designs. One evening, as Sarah and Zara stood on the roof of the radio station, looking out over the town they were desperately trying to protect, Zara turned to the human doctor with wonder in her swirling eyes. "I've seen countless worlds, Dr. Chen, but I've never seen anything like this. Your people, they barely know what they're facing, yet they stand ready to fight. Why?" Sarah smiled, a mixture of pride and determination on her face. "Because that's what humans do, Zara. When our backs are against the wall, when the odds seem impossible, we don't back down. We stand up. We fight. Not just for ourselves, but for what's right." As if to punctuate her words, a streak of light suddenly blazed across the sky. Too fast, too purposeful to be a shooting star. Sarah's hand found Zara's, their fingers intertwining as they watched the first Nexara ships enter Earth's atmosphere. "They're here," Zara whispered, her voice trembling. Sarah squeezed her hand, her jaw set with determination. "Then it's time to show them what humanity is made of." The next morning, as the people of Pinewood Creek went about their daily routines, an eerie silence fell over the town. The birds had stopped singing, and a strange electric tension filled the air. In the town square, Mayor Johnson was about to begin his daily address when a shadow fell over the gathering. Looking up, the townspeople gasped in unison. Hovering above them was a massive ship, its dark hull gleaming ominously in the morning sun. Smaller craft began to descend, surrounding the square. As panic began to spread, a voice boomed out over the town's speaker system, Astro Owl, his usual exuberance replaced by a calm, steady resolve. Folks of Pinewood Creek, this is the moment we've been preparing for. Remember who we are. Remember what we stand for. We are the voice of the pines, and we will not be silenced. With those words, the town sprang into action. As the Nexara soldiers began to emerge from their ships, they were met not with terrified civilians, but with a united front of determined faces. Farmers drove their tractors into strategic positions, creating barricades. The local police, bolstered by members of the gun club, took up defensive positions, and from every rooftop and window, improvised devices began to emit a high-pitched frequency that seemed to disorient the alien invaders. In the center of it all stood Sarah and Zara, the human doctor and the alien refugee, hand in hand as they faced down the Void Imperium's forces. The lead Nexara, a towering figure in ornate black armor, stepped forward. His voice, translated through some unseen device, dripped with disdain. Primitives, you dare to defy the Void Imperium. Submit now, and your suffering will be minimized. Sarah stepped forward, her voice ringing out clear and defiant. We are humanity. We don't submit to tyrants, whether they're from this planet or any other. You want Zara? You want to oppress the free peoples of the galaxy? Then you'll have to go through us. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, with a roar that seemed to shake the very mountains, the people of Pinewood Creek surged forward. The battle for Earth, for the very future of galactic freedom, had begun. As energy weapons clashed with human ingenuity and determination, as farmers and shopkeepers stood shoulder to shoulder against the soldiers of an intergalactic empire, a message began to spread. From Pinewood Creek, it raced across the globe, carried by radio waves, internet connections, and the indomitable human spirit. Humanity had taken its stand. The galaxy would never be the same. The battle for freedom. The skies above Pinewood Creek erupted into chaos as the Nexara ships engaged in a deadly dance with Earth's hastily scrambled fighter jets. The sound of energy weapons and explosions shattered the once peaceful Montana air, while on the ground, the unlikely alliance of townsfolk and their alien ally fought with everything they had. Sarah Chen, her white doctor's coat now stained with dirt and alien blood, moved swiftly through the battlefield. Her medical bag had been repurposed, now carrying a mixture of human medicine and alien tech cobbled together by Zara. She darted from person to person, treating wounds both familiar and utterly foreign. "Doc, we need you over here," shouted Sheriff Mills, waving frantically from behind an overturned police cruiser. Sarah sprinted over, sliding into cover just as a bolt of energy sizzled overhead. "What's the situation?" Sarah asked, already reaching for her supplies. The sheriff grimaced, revealing a nasty burn on his arm. "One of them alien weapons caught me. Hurts like hell, but I'll live. What I'm worried about is our ammo. We're running low, and these bastards just keep coming." Sarah worked quickly, applying a mixture of Earth antibiotics and a regenerative gel Zara had synthesized. "We just need to hold out a little longer," she said, trying to inject confidence into her voice. "Zara's message is getting through. Help is coming." As if on cue, a deafening roar filled the air. Sarah looked up to see a massive ship breaking through the clouds, its hull gleaming with an iridescent light that reminded her of Zara's skin. It was a Lumini warship, answering the call of their lost comrade. The arrival of Zara's people turned the tide of the battle. Their advanced weapons made short work of the Nexara ships, while on the ground, the aliens who had come to subjugate found themselves outmatched by the combined forces of humanity and the Lumini. In the town square, Zara stood atop the statue of Pinewood Creek's founder, her body glowing with an intense light as she coordinated the efforts of her people. Sarah watched in awe as the alien she had saved now fought to save them all. But the Nexara were not about to give up easily. Their commander, a towering figure in black armor adorned with pulsing red lines, strode through the chaos, cutting down all who stood in his path, his eyes, cold and merciless, fixed on Zara. "The traitor," he snarled, his voice somehow carrying over the din of battle. "You thought you could hide among these primitives. Your defiance ends here." He raised a weapon that hummed with dark energy, aiming it squarely at Zara. Time seemed to slow as Sarah saw the danger. Without thinking, she broke into a run, her heart pounding in her ears. "Zara!" Sarah cried out, launching herself towards her alien friend. She collided with Zara just as the Nexara commander fired, the energy blast missing them by inches and obliterating the statue behind them. They tumbled to the ground, Sarah's body shielding Zara from the falling debris. As the dust settled, Sarah found herself staring into Zara's swirling eyes, seeing a mixture of gratitude and something deeper reflected there. "You saved me," Zara whispered, her translator struggling to convey the emotion in her voice. "Again." Sarah managed a smile, despite the pain radiating from her shoulder where a piece of shrapnel had struck her. "That's what friends do." Their moment was interrupted by the heavy footsteps of the Nexara commander approaching. Sarah struggled to her feet, placing herself between Zara and the alien threat. "Stand aside, human," the commander growled. "This does not concern you." Sarah's eyes narrowed, her voice steady despite her fear. "Like hell it doesn't. You came to our world, you threatened our people, you hurt my friend. That makes it very much my concern." The commander laughed, a cold, metallic sound that sent chills down Sarah's spine. "Your bravery is admirable, if misplaced. What do you think you can do against me, little human?" Sarah's mind raced. She was no warrior, no match for this alien behemoth. But as she felt Zara's hand on her shoulder, as she heard the sounds of her townsfolk still fighting bravely around her, she knew she couldn't give up. "I can stand," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I can stand for what's right. I can stand for freedom. I can stand for a future where beings from different worlds work together instead of trying to conquer each other. And I won't stand alone." As if summoned by her words, the people of Pinewood Creek began to gather around her. Farmers with pitchforks stood shoulder to shoulder with Lumini warriors. Astro Earl's voice crackled over the town's speakers, rallying more to their cause. The Nexara commander's eyes widened as he found himself surrounded by a determined crowd of humans and aliens united against him. For the first time, uncertainty crept into his voice. This is impossible. You're just primitives. You can't." "Can't what?" Sarah challenged. "Can't think for ourselves? Can't fight for our freedom? Can't see that there's a better way than your empire of fear? Look around you. This is humanity. This is who we are. We may be young in galactic terms, but we're fast learners, and we don't take kindly to bullies, no matter what planet they're from." The commander raised his weapon, desperation clear in his movements, but before he could fire, a blast of energy struck him from behind. He crumpled to the ground, revealing Zara standing with a Lumini weapon in hand. "Consider that my resignation from the Galactic Concordat," Zara said, her translator managing to convey a hint of smugness. As the Nexara forces, seeing their leader fall, began to surrender, a cheer went up from the assembled crowd. Humans and Lumini embraced, the barriers between their species seeming to melt away in the joy of shared victory. Sarah found herself swept up in Zara's arms, the alien's skin glowing with happiness. "We did it," Zara said, her eyes swirling with vibrant colors. "You did it, Sarah. You showed the galaxy the true strength of humanity." As the sun began to set on Pinewood Creek, casting a golden light over the battered but unbroken town, Sarah looked around at the incredible scene. Humans and aliens working together to tend to the wounded, to repair the damage, to build something new from the ashes of conflict. She realized that this was more than just a victory over an alien invasion. It was the dawn of a new era. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage, and they had done so not with conquest or subjugation, but with courage, compassion, and an unbreakable spirit. The battle was over, but the real adventure was just beginning. As she stood there, her hand intertwined with Zara's, Sarah Chen knew that the future held wonders beyond imagination. Humanity had proven itself ready to reach for the stars, and the stars, it seemed, were ready to reach back. A new alliance. The weeks following the Battle of Pinewood Creek saw a flurry of activity unlike anything the small Montana town had ever experienced. The once quiet streets were now filled with a mix of human officials, alien diplomats, and curious onlookers from around the world. At the center of it all stood Dr. Sarah Chen and Zara, unlikely heroes thrust into the spotlight of humanity's first official extraterrestrial encounter. As the sun rose over the Pinewood Creek Community Center, now serving as an impromptu intergalactic conference hall, Sarah straightened her newly pressed suit. She never imagined she'd be trading her doctor's coat for diplomatic attire, but these were unprecedented times. "Ready for this?" Zara asked, her translator conveying a mix of excitement and nervousness. The alien's iridescent skin shimmered with anticipation. Sarah took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be to help negotiate humanity's place in the galaxy." They entered the conference hall to a burst of camera flashes and a cacophony of voices, human reporters mixed with alien journalists, all clamoring for a glimpse of the duo who had changed the course of galactic history. At the head of the table sat an impressive array of figures: the President of the United States, the Secretary General of the United Nations, and various world leaders. Opposite them were the alien delegates, the regal Lumini ambassador, representatives from other galactic concordat species, and even a few former Nex-Ara, those who had defected after witnessing humanity's stand against tyranny. As Sarah and Zara took their seats, a hush fell over the room. The president stood, his voice solemn yet filled with optimism. "Today, we gather not just as nations, but as a planet, to take our first official steps into a larger galactic community. The events in Pinewood Creek have shown us that we are not alone in the universe, but more importantly, they have shown the universe what humanity stands for." The Lumini ambassador rose next, her luminescent form casting a soft glow over the assembly. "The courage and compassion demonstrated by Dr. Chen and the people of this town have opened our eyes. We came to Earth expecting to find primitives in need of guidance. Instead, we found equals, beings of extraordinary potential and unwavering spirit." As the negotiations proceeded, Sarah found herself in the surreal position of bridging two worlds. Her medical knowledge, combined with her unique experience with Zara, made her an invaluable asset in discussions ranging from xenobiology to cultural exchange. One of the most heated debates centered around technology sharing. Some human leaders pushed for immediate access to advanced alien tech, while others urged caution. Sarah stood, her voice clear and confident. "We must remember that technology without wisdom can be dangerous. Our goal should not be to advance our gadgets, but to advance our understanding. Let us focus first on cultural exchange, on learning from each other's histories and philosophies. The technology will come, but let's ensure we're ready for it." Her words seemed to resonate with both humans and aliens alike, leading to the proposal of a revolutionary education initiative. Universities around the world would open their doors to alien students, while humans would have the opportunity to study on distant planets. As the days of negotiation turned into weeks, a new galactic order began to take shape. Earth, despite its relative technological inferiority, was granted a seat on the reformed Galactic Concordat Council. The wisdom and fresh perspective offered by humanity were seen as valuable assets in creating a more just and balanced interstellar community. But it wasn't all high-level diplomacy. Sarah made sure that the everyday heroes of Pinewood Creek weren't forgotten. Farmer John's ingenious use of his tractor as a barricade against Nex-Ara troops became a case study in adaptive tactics. Astro Earl's radio broadcasts were hailed as a masterclass in unifying a population in crisis. One evening, as the negotiations were winding down, Sarah found Zara standing alone on the balcony of the community center, gazing up at the stars. "Credit for your thoughts?" Sarah asked, moving to stand beside her alien friend. Zora's eyes swirled with a mix of emotions. "I was just thinking about how much has changed. When I crashed here, I thought I had reached the end of my journey. Instead, I found a new beginning, for me, for my people, for the entire galaxy." Sarah nodded, understanding the weight of those words. "It's overwhelming, isn't it? Yesterday, I was worried about Mrs. Johnson's arthritis. Today, I'm helping draft interstellar treaties." They shared a laugh, the sound carrying on the cool Montana breeze. Then Zora turned to Sarah, her expression serious. "The Lumini have offered me a position as their ambassador to Earth," she said. "It's a great honor, but..." Sarah prompted, feeling a sudden tightness in her chest. "But I find myself reluctant to leave," Zora admitted. "This place, these people, you, have become important to me, more than I ever imagined possible." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her body, a feeling that transcended the boundaries of their different species. "Well," she said with a smile, "Pinewood Creek is going to need a good xenobiologist to help with all these alien visitors. And I hear the local doctor is looking for a partner who can handle patients with swirling eyes and glowing skin." Zora's face lit up, quite literally, her skin pulsing with joy. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying," Sarah took Zora's hand in hers, marveling at how natural it felt despite their physiological differences, "that your journey doesn't have to end, and neither does mine. We can start a new one, together, right here." As they stood there, a human doctor and an alien refugee turned galactic peacemakers, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. In Pinewood Creek, a small town that had become the epicenter of Earth's entry onto the galactic stage, the future stretched out before them, full of endless possibilities. The story of humanity's first steps into a larger, more wondrous universe had only just begun, and thanks to the courage, compassion, and unwavering spirit of unlikely heroes from a small town in Montana, it promised to be an adventure beyond imagination. As news of the Pinewood Accord spread across Earth and into the far reaches of the galaxy, a new age dawned. An age of exploration, cooperation, and hope. An age where the best of humanity would shine as a beacon among the stars, forever changing the cosmic landscape. And it all started with one human doctor who had the courage to heal a wounded alien woman.